And he's crossing the 50-yard line. He has no one through the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Otterbein.
Good snap, good hold. The kick is up from Gaither, and it is good. Takes the give to Rudolph. Sizemore throwing off his back foot. What a catch by Bryson Ray! Oh my goodness!
Live from the studios at 33 College View, it's time for the Tim Doup Coaches Show on 97.5 WOBN. Now, here's your host, David Kinder.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome in for the Week 6 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show here from the studios of 33 College View on 97.5 WOBN. I'm your host, David Kinder. Joining me in studio, a pair of Otterbein centers, former center, now third-year head football coach Tim Doup, and the current center on the Otterbein Cardinals football team, junior Grant Noppenberger from Dublin-Scioto High School, who has been Otterbein's starting center since week 1 of his freshman year way back in 2012. Otterbein gets it done last Saturday, 50-28. They defeat their crosstown rivals in the 89th edition of the Otterbein Capital game. They advance to 3-2 on the season, 3-1 in OAC play, and are tied for third place in the conference. Grant, you guys get the win. You're undefeated in your career against the Crusaders, 3-0. It had to feel good to get the victory and remain perfect against that team down south.
Yeah, I mean, it felt pretty good. It always feels good to go 3-0 or start 3-0 against your crosstown rivals. Hopefully next year we can finish it out.
Coach, with a few minutes left in the game, as we said, 50-28 victory. You get the ice bucket dunk. I learned it wasn't Gatorade, it was water, but it was cold on Saturday. It was a little below 50 degrees almost all night. Had to be pretty cold, and did you find out who did it to you yet?
No, it was real cold. It was something that, I didn't expect it. I was warned a little bit before that something might be brewing, but obviously I was still into the game, watching and taking care of, what we're trying to do. And, yeah, there was a lot of ice. I think they double-loaded the ice or something because there was a lot of ice down my back, and, yes, it was very cold.
I'm sure extra laps for whoever did it when you find out who did it.
And I don't know who did it yet, but I'm still trying to get to the bottom of the culprit, so we'll find out.
We have it on video, so I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Good.
Grant, 544 yards of total offense for the boys on Saturday. Most ever in any game in your 3 years here at Otterbein. It's the most points Otterbein has scored against Capital since 1959. Coming into the game, you knew that Capital's defense was one of the worst in the OAC, statistically at least. How are you guys able to have so much success and put so much points on the board?
I think we were just able to put a man on a man and just run the ball hard.
Last week, the offensive line allowed 5 sacks on Brick Davis, really broke down in the second half, giving up 4. This week, however, he had great protection, no sacks allowed, plenty of time to throw the ball. What changed up front from last week to this week?
I think just our intensity and just being able to stay in front of our guys.
256 yards rushing thanks to the holes opened up by that O-line. Coach, we always like to ask for your grade on the offensive line, so were you pleased with the progress from last week to the Capital game?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got, we did much improve. We went back to some basic stuff, and we're going to go do that same thing this week. There's some things that we still need to work on. I think we still need to get off the ball faster, and I still think, at times we still need to be a little bit more physical. We got to start getting a little bit just better movement. I think we know what we're doing. It's just a matter of sustaining and staying on our guys longer. But I would say I'd give him probably a B. And I'm a hard grader, so that's pretty generous for me. But overall, I'd probably grade him out at about a B.
A B from Coach Grant. Where would you rank the offensive line? Obviously, being the starting center, what grade would you give you guys after the game?
Yeah, I'd also go with a B. There were a couple plays that we didn't get guys coming off on backers and stuff, but, yeah, I'd say a B.
First drive of the second quarter, you guys come out in the Wildcat formation. Cole Benner at quarterback. It's a formation we haven't seen really since the Week 1 game against St. John Fisher, and in that game, it resulted in an 80-yard touchdown the first play, and then Otterbein ran it back-to-back times, and it resulted in a safety. This time, the Cardinals run it 4 times. It results in gains of 31, 3, 16, and 24. The last, a touchdown run from Benner on a draw right up the middle. Grant, did you guys know going into the game that there was a chance that this formation was probably going to be called? And is it an exciting one to run when you know that it's going to be called?
Yeah, we knew that we were going to be running that. And yeah, I think it's exciting because there's always that chance of a big play with Cole back there with his speed.
Is there anything that changes up front when you know that you have a guy who's usually a wide receiver lining up and you're snapping to a receiver instead of your usual quarterback in Brick Davis?
No, I wouldn't say really anything changes. We just line up and run the play.
The relationship between a quarterback and a center is obviously very strong. Brick Davis, 17 of 34, 288 yards through the air, and a touchdown, no interceptions. Grant, what did you think of his play, and how do you think he's progressed through the year?
I think he played very well, and as he's been playing throughout the year, I think he's definitely been progressing.
Coach, no interceptions out of your senior quarterback. Had to be pleased with that. What do you think of his progression so far this year?
I think he's still doing, every week he's getting better and better. We trust him to get us in and out of things and I always tell him, like I said before, is you need to make us right no matter what. And he does a great job with that, keeping us, on time, what we need to do. He actually gets a little anxious when we slow up a little bit. It drives him crazy when he's looking at the play clock, and he's, he just wants to go. And there's sometimes you do need to slow the game down a little bit. But I thought he did a good job. I think he missed some things, there for a couple times. He threw a couple bad balls. But other than that, he threw some nice balls too. He dropped some really nice, throws in tight windows, and that's what you got to do.
Coach, turning our attention to the defense, Capital scores a touchdown their first drive of the game, a long 78-yard drive, and it looked like the option might give the defense some problems. However, in the second half, it's a different story. The defense shuts them out until there's about a minute left in the game, and they score a touchdown on mostly Otterbein backups while they still have their starters in. How did you feel overall that the defense handled the triple option?
Well, I think we did a great job. Never seeing that live, it is tough. And, for them to go down and score right away, I mean, it takes a while for you to adjust to that. You're not used to the speed, getting cut, the things they're doing. So as you see, as the game goes on, you get better and better against it. Last year they scored on the first play out of it. This year it took them a lot longer, and it just took us a little bit longer to get used to it. But I thought our defense did a great job in adjusting. It just took us a little bit longer to adjust. But once they did, they did a great job.
3 touchdowns in the first half on that triple option. They come out in the second half under 100 yards rushing. Was there any adjustments that the defense made at halftime?
Yeah, we made some adjustments on pitch keys and rolling and doing some different things and who had dive. And I think we we maybe confused them a little bit, changing who their pitch man is, who their read man is. But, that was all on the defensive coaches. They did a great job making those adjustments.
We talked last week about how one of your biggest concerns was that the defensive secondary might get lulled to sleep. Nick Eiske, the quarterback for the Crusaders, completed just 41% of his passes, and the defensive backs made 3 very nice interceptions into the game. Were you pleased with the play of the defensive secondary?
Oh, absolutely. Other than the big runs, but they're getting cut, and that's different. But the secondary, I thought, played outstanding. Coming up with big interceptions, being where we're supposed to be. They never got lulled to sleep. And, we worked on the pass game quite a bit this week because they had shown some 4 wide and a lot of play action, passing more than they had been. But, no, they did a great job.
Yeah, hard to say which interception was the most impressive.
Yeah.
The one with Shell and the one with Moore were very, very nice catches.
Yeah.
The one with Jordan Keaton had a nice return on it. Capital came into the game only attempting 14 passes a game, lowest in the OAC. They threw 29 on Saturday. Did you expect them to throw it around that much?
Well, I mean, I had an idea that they might after watching Heidelberg, I didn't know if they'd throw that much because that's just not them. That's not them, but we were doing such a good job there, starting. And when you got to play catch-up football, that offense, when you get down 2 scores, 3 scores, you got to change it up because if you don't, then you're just running the clock. So,
and they had to move to the shotgun formation for a lot of the second half, something I'm sure they don't practice very much. Individually, middle linebacker Austin Jones all over the field, 18 tackles in the game. You had to be very happy with the way he played, and would you give the defensive MVP to the sophomore linebacker?
You probably have to. I mean, that's a lot of tackles. But before the game, we talked a little bit, and I said, you got to play better than you did last week. And he said, I promise I will. And, at the end of the game, I look at the stats, and he's got 18 tackles. And some of those, and I can tell you this, some of those, when he hit those guys, people knew it. I mean, he brought the wood, and he did a great job. That's the Austin Jones I was looking for.
Yeah, we could feel him up in the press box. Lastly, Coach, there were some up and downs on the special team. Jordan Keaton, in addition to his interception, averaged about 38 yards a punt. Tyler Hammond had 2 good kick returns, and Quentin Miller had a 37-yard field goal, his first ever attempt in his career. However, we saw 2 kickoffs go out of bounds, and Alana missed her first extra point of the season. Overall, what was the grade on the special team Saturday?
Not as good as you need. I think we got 4 out of the 10 goals. To win games, you always want to be between 8 and above to have a good special teams day. But we got a couple. We did get a big return called back because of a hold, and Alana, unfortunately, she missed 2. She banged one off the upright and then hooked her last one left. But I think she was overcompensating a little bit, and it'll get fixed.
For the 3rd straight year, the battle of Columbus suburb supremacy will reside in Westerville as Otterbein defeats the Capital Crusaders 50-28, advancing to 3-2 on the season, 3-1 overall. We're going to take our first break, though. When we come back, we will preview the Muskingum Fightin' Muskies, and we'll find out from Coach and Grant Noppenberger what Otterbein needs to do to get the victory on Saturday. You're listening to the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. We'll be right back.
Fewer than 5 out of 100 people give blood. Ever wonder why they do it?
It's the one thing that we can do that we can always afford to do, and hey, you get a snack afterwards. So
snacks are great. I had never knew my blood type, and I found out in doing this that I'm O negative. So there's that added pressure knowing that everyone can use my blood at any time, and so I feel like it's my responsibility.
It's a little extra bragging power too, knowing that you're a universal giver.
Yeah, I'm pretty special.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org to make an appointment today.
Hi, I'm Junior Center Grant Noppenberger. You're listening to the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. Miss anything from today's episode, you can listen to every show on WOBN's YouTube page.
Hey Cardinal fans, Otterbein Athletics on the Radio is brought to you in part by Westerville Automotive. Serving the Westerville area for 20 years, they have 2 locations on Westerville Road and in the Uptown area, just seconds away from Otterbein on Main Street. They're on the web at westervilleautomotive.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Westerville Automotive Uptown or call them at 614-890-6700.
I used to be one of those irresponsible guys, always goofing off and acting like a real jerk. Girls wouldn't give me the time of day. Hey, Julie, do you have the time?
Shut up.
Then, 30 days before my 18th birthday, I went down to my local post office and registered with Selective Service overnight.
I became aware of the man I had suddenly become, eligible for federal student loans, government jobs, and job training, responsible and mature. Hi, Julie. Dinner tonight?
I'd love to, Brad.
So register with Selective Service. It's what a man's gotta do.
These are the sounds of someone taking their eyes off the road. Texting while driving is more than distracting. It's dangerous. Do yourself a favor. Do us all a favor. When you're on the road, stay off the phone. A message from CTIA, America's Wireless Companies, and the National Safety Council.
And welcome back to the Week 6 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. I'm David Kinder. Joining me in the studio, Otterbein center Grant Noppenberger and head football coach Tim Doup. And we will turn our attention now to the Fightin' Muskies of New Concord, who Otterbein will do battle with at 1:30 this Saturday, a game you can listen to right here on 97.5 WOBN. Live coverage will start at 1 o'clock. Myself and Elijah Gonzalez will have all the play-by-play in that game. Well, Muskingum comes into this game 1-4, 1-3 in OAC play, 8th-year head coach Al Logan's team is coming off a 54-21 loss to the Heidelberg Student Princes last Saturday. Last year's game, Coach, it came right down to the wire in New Concord. A real barn burner. Muskingum missed a 41-yard field goal with a minute to play to preserve a 12-10 Otterbein lead. Otterbein's defense stepped up huge down the stretch, ended up getting a sack, and then I'm not sure if you remember, the quarterback actually ended up lining up under the left guard on the final play of the game, and Otterbein got the 12-10 victory over the Muskies. Coach, from the past few games you've played against Muskingum and any film that you've seen so far this year, what do you remember about the Muskies that they do that could give Otterbein some problems?
They are probably one of the most physical teams we're going to play. I mean, they are big and strong, and they line up, and they played it, defensively, they just come at you nonstop, and they are very, very physical. When you're done playing these guys, you know you were in a very, very physical football game.
Grant, you played in the 12-10 win a season ago in New Concord. What do you remember about the Muskies that they do well and could give the offensive line some trouble?
Definitely they play very tough, very physical, and I think basically if we can just get movement on them and play with intensity, then it should be better.
Muskingum comes into the game as one of the OAC's weaker defenses, giving up 40 points per game, 242 yards of total offense a game. That's 9th in the conference. What do you think Otterbein's offense can exploit in the Muskingum defense?
Well, first of all, possibly our run game, hopefully. If we can get that going, I think we'll have a good day.
What do you see as the biggest need or area of improvement Otterbein has in the week of practice leading up to this game?
I'd say continue with our pass protection. It's still a little iffy, so yeah.
Muskingum has a talented linebacker in Cheney Fulton, a sophomore who likes to blitz a lot up the middle. He leads the conference in tackles for loss, top 5 in tackles and sacks as well. As we said, just a sophomore. Anything special planned knowing that they like to blitz a lot and they have a guy who can do it a lot up the middle in the area that you're going to have to defend as a center?
Yeah, I think as long as we prepare for it, we'll be able to pick him up.
Coach, knowing that Muskingum has a weaker defense, but their offense statistically is among the OAC's weakest as well, averaging just 276 yards per contest. Otterbein very balanced in the victory over Capital, 256 yards rushing, 288 yards passing. Do you think we'll see a balanced attack again, or is there one that you're favoring this Saturday?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think that's what I think is why our offense is clicking so well. If you can stay balanced and keep people, in check with what they need to do, I couldn't ask for anything better as to be that balanced. And right now, when we did our self-breakdown of all of our games, because we self-scout ourselves, we're almost right at 50% run pass.
We saw 256 yards rushing in the game against Capital. We saw a heavy dose of both Drew Irvin and Reed Hutchinson. Reed over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drew with 3 touchdowns last week against Heidelberg. Do you plan on running a formation with both of them out there again, or just riding the hot hand and seeing which one's playing better?
No, those two are a tandem right now. It's great to have both of them on the field. So we'll figure out ways to make sure, both of them are getting the football and keep them both on the field, because we think, it balances us up a little bit and you can't concentrate on one or the other.
We also saw junior running back John Pyle score his first ever college touchdown. Any chance we could see him mixed into the backfield a little more?
Absolutely. To bring him in and Speedy Hammond, the goal was when Johnny came in for fresh legs, we were going to bring in Speedy too, but he got a little dinged up. So he couldn't come in. But, no, I wouldn't be surprised. Those guys with fresh legs, bringing them in, during that time. And with our O-line still in there and everybody else, I think it just gives us a good wrinkle, for guys to break tackles like John. I mean, he came in and broke 3 or 4 tackles, and we thought he was down, and he popped out of it. So, it's always good to have that stable of running backs.
Never stopped moving his legs. Got hit at about the 10-yard line and just kept going and took about 3 guys into the end zone
and then
with
broke
him.
Free. Yeah, yes. It's awesome.
So very nice to see him score his first ever college touchdown. We talked in the last segment about the success of the Wildcat formation and how you used it in the second quarter to score a touchdown in just 4 plays. Any chance we could see that again or something similar to it in New Concord?
Oh, obviously, everybody, they've seen it on film. I mean, there's a possibility. We only used it one other time, and we thought this was the week, to do a little bit more with it. But, that's a game feel. Do we want to change it up a little bit? So, there's always a possibility that could come out.
Any chance we could see Benner throw out of that formation? Was the touchdown a designed pass and he just took off?
Well, yeah, he can throw the ball. So he has options just like Brick does when he's back there, and he just decided to, take off.
On the injury front, looking to Saturday's game, we knew Evan Bergenstein was questionable. He played. He had 5 tackles. A tackle for loss, was in the backfield a lot. Is it safe to say that he's completely recovered from his injury?
Yeah, he's ready to go. That was a day before decision, but he assured us that he was ready to go, and he's ready.
We didn't see safety Jordan Boniface last week out with an injury. Any update on his injury and if we can expect to see him Saturday?
As of right now, that'll be still the same. I mean, probably not, to be quite honest. But we'll wait and see.
Can we expect, other than him, most of the starting lineup to remain the same?
Yeah. I mean, I think we came out of this pretty healthy, and I like where we are right now, so I don't see any major changes at all.
Saturday's game with the Fightin' Muskies will kick off from Agonica Stadium at 1:30 in New Concord, Ohio. You can tune in to 97.5 if you can't make it to the game at 1 o'clock for live coverage. Myself and Elijah Gonzalez with all the call. That's going to do it for our preview of the Fightin' Muskies. We'll take break number 2. When we come back, we'll take a look at the top 4 in major college football, and we'll get Grant and Coach's opinions on who should be in the top 4 and who will make it into that first ever Division I college football playoff. Very exciting stuff. You're listening to the Tim Doup Coaches Show on 97.5. We'll be right back after these messages.
Football is a sport that unites fans, players, and coaches alike in a spirit of competition and camaraderie. Football season has come to our area, and while you're watching a game with friends or sharing in the excitement with family, be sure to celebrate responsibly. Never pick up the keys and drive if you've had too much to drink. And if you're 21, drinking alcohol is against the law. Remember, alcohol is different. Let's all work together to keep our roads and community safe and have a winning season.
Be sure to log on to WOBN.net for a complete broadcast schedule of music, talk shows, and sports. That's WOBN.net.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a
I want to
day.
be a football
I want to be a
stadium.
bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Would your business survive a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Can't make it to one of the football games this year? Well, WOBN has you covered with live broadcast of all 10 football games this year, home and away. Join us 30 minutes before kickoff for pregame and stay with us long after the final whistle for analysis and updates on what else happened in college football. It's all right here on 97.5 WOBN and streaming live anywhere in the world on WOBN.net. Welcome back to our final segment here on the Week 6 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show. We just got done previewing the Fightin' Muskies of Muskingum, and now we will turn our attention to a topic not necessarily about Otterbein football, but still about college football in general. And this week we will be talking about the college football playoff. Coach, we talked about it a little bit with the very first episode this year when Brick Davis was in here. I asked you what your thoughts were on the playoff, if you liked it, if you preferred the bowl game system. Not so much talking about that today, but rather looking at the teams who are ranked in the top 4 right now. So if the season would end today, presumably these would be the teams getting in. These rankings from the AP and the coaches don't decide who makes it into the playoff at the end of the year. That is an outside panel, but this is all we have to go off of right now, so this is what we're basing it off of, and they're pretty much unanimous. The AP and the coaches poll right now, if you take a look at them, Mississippi State, for the first time in the 78-year history of the polls, number 1 in all of the land in both the AP and the coaches poll. Number 2 in the Associated Press is the Seminoles of Florida State, who fell out from that number 1 spot. Ole Miss, the Rebels, at 3. Baylor is at 4. And then looking on the outside in right now would be the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, who are still undefeated, a very tough schedule ahead of them, but they are at 5 right now, so they're not even in the top 5, wouldn't make the playoffs as an undefeated team. And number 25, Marshall, got in the rankings. They're 6-0, so they're still undefeated too, but don't expect to see the Thunder and Herd in the playoff system.
No.
So our question for you, Grant and Coach, is if the season ended today, based on the teams right now, who would you put in the college football playoff, in the inaugural college football playoff?
Well, I tell you that's tough. I think they've got it right now. But here's the thing that's just you got another undefeated team in there, Notre Dame, who's playing good football. They beat some good football teams. As of right now today, I would probably say it's right. I think Mississippi State is definitely number 1. And I'm going to say that because of a former Otterbein guy that's their strength and conditioning coach down there, Brady Collins, who played for us, a captain here in 2008. He's doing a great job as assistant strength coach. I see him on TV all the time. I'm not so sure about the Florida State right now. I might almost put Ole Miss too. I mean, they have been dominant. And then maybe Florida State, and Baylor got away with a scare. They were down big, had to come back and beat TCU. So, that's iffy. I don't know how, obviously Baylor's defense is, and Notre Dame is just solid. Obviously it's not going to finish like this. It can't, because Ole Miss and Mississippi State play each other.
Yep.
Unless they're going to take a one-loss team. But if Notre Dame wins out and it's one loss with those guys, Baylor goes undefeated, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, that's a crazy call, but I would have to say the one-loss team's out, and you got to put your 4 undefeateds in.
Notre Dame also plays the Seminoles this Saturday in a big-time matchup that will determine who gets into that top 4. So I
forgot about that. I forgot that's this Saturday.
So as it sits right now, 2 SEC teams would make it into the college football playoffs if we're basing it on the AP and the coaches. So, Coach, do you prefer giving preference to conference champions, or do you think it's the most deserving? Should a one-loss team get it over, say, a Big 12 conference champion who doesn't even have a conference championship game?
That's tough, but I think you got to look at everything, and I think if there's a one-loss team in there that deserves it, then look at Michigan State. Let's take them for instance. They lost to a great Oregon team who has since lost, but had them playing tough through 3 quarters and lost, and haven't lost yet since. So that's a tough call.
It seems like if you get your loss in early, then you're good to go.
You climb all the way back.
And speaking of teams who got their loss in early, it wouldn't be a radio show in Columbus, Ohio, if we didn't talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are 13th in the Associated Press poll and the coaches poll after having a bye week this Saturday. No more bye weeks. They got a game the rest of the way. They currently sit at 4-1, had the loss to Virginia Tech in week 2. Does Ohio State still have a chance?
I don't know. I think that Virginia Tech loss could come back to haunt just because of what happened to Virginia Tech since. Getting beat by East Carolina but East Carolina is doing, they've only got a 1 loss too, but still, I think people will look at that and wonder. But it was early, and a lot of, like you said, sometimes early is good. And I've seen crazier things happen, put it that way. So outside shot, absolutely.
Grant, you're a Dublin guy from the Columbus area. You told me in the break that you are indeed an Ohio State fan. So Ohio State sitting 13th right now. I'm sure you haven't been able to watch every Ohio State game because they play a lot at the same time as Otterbein. But does Ohio State have a chance to get it into that playoff system?
As of now, I don't know. It's a tough decision to make because they've got a big game coming up at Michigan State at night. So I think maybe if they can pull that out, they'll have somewhat of a chance. If a couple teams ahead of them can lose, but as of now, I'm not entirely sure.
Mississippi State, Florida State, Ole Miss, Baylor, the current top 4. Do you agree with the voters and their placement of those teams in the top 4 in the country?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with the top three. I might put Notre Dame at number 4 instead of Baylor, but no, it's tough decision to make.
And when it comes down to it, does the SEC deserve 2 teams in it, even if one of those teams is a one-loss team over maybe a undefeated conference champion from another league?
I'm not entirely sure about that. It kind of depends on the team and who they're and who the one loss is to.
Well, that is Otterbein starting center Grant Noppenberger and head football coach Tim Doup's opinions on who should be in the top 4 in the college football playoff system when it comes. I think we can all admit it's going to be a little crazy when it gets to the end of November and they have to make their decisions. That is going to do it for the Week 6 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show. We thank everyone for tuning in and joining us today. Remember, if you missed anything from today's episode, you can catch every episode recorded on WOBN's YouTube page. You can tune in to the game Saturday with live coverage starting at 1 o'clock, the kickoff at 1:30 right here on 97.5 WOB, and myself and Elijah Gonzalez will have the call from New Concord, Ohio against Muskingum. That's going to do it from the studio for Otterbein starting center Grant Noppenberger and head football coach Tim Doup. This is David Kinder signing off for WOBN Sports. Till next time.